A battle between a gay bookstore and Canada Customs goes to court. And patrolling 17,000 miles of coastline, the RCMP's Coastal Watch asks for your help.
The new News Hour with Deborah Hope.
Good afternoon. Hope you enjoyed your holiday weekend. Coming up on our broadcast today, good news from the world of cancer research. Scientists find a genetic marker. Who's opening the doors at the world's major hotels now that the doormen are in Vancouver for their first ever convention? We'll meet one of the world's busiest doormen later. And Miracle Mother, a comedic play about motherhood and religion, opens in Vancouver. We'll have that story for you as well. But first, to a very disturbing story. The bodies of two newborns have been found in a southern BC campground, and police are treating their deaths as suspicious. The babies, believed to be twins, were discovered in a public washroom in Allison Lake Provincial Park near Princeton. Police say the placentas were still attached. Autopsies are being performed in Vancouver, while police in Princeton ask for the public's help in this case. And joining us now from Princeton is Corporal Russell Peterson from the Princeton RCMP. Corporal Peterson, I understand you're looking for a vehicle.
Yes, we are, and to update you on that, the vehicle just came in and has been located, and it's no longer a concern to us in the investigation.
Oh, okay.
So the driver.
So, are there any other leads at this point?
At this time, we're still doing our basic neighborhood inquiries. There's several tips that we are following up on. We are, at this time, waiting for the results of the autopsy to assist us.
Were these babies girls or boys, Corporal Peterson?
I won't give my opinion. It would be just an opinion, and that'll be confirmed with the autopsy.
And when are you expecting the results of those? Do we know yet the cause of death?
We do not know the cause of death, and I anticipate to know the results by 3 o'clock this afternoon, and at that time we will be prepared to give an update, require the assistance definitely from the community, and we are concerned about the health and well-being of the mother involved.
Well, I'm sure you won't want to say too much about this, but people's first assumption will be that this is someone who didn't want to have babies.
That is one possibility.
So you're asking for the public's help, and anybody with any information should call you at your detachment?
That's correct. They can call our detachment and speak to one of the investigators or provide any information to our secretaries, and we will follow up on it.
Okay. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us, Corporal Peterson.
Thank you.
The NewsHour's Brian Coxford is in the Princeton area covering this story, and he will have a report for us later in the day. Meanwhile, 16-year-old Pamela Cameron will be buried in her hometown of Milton, Ontario today. Police found the teen's naked body a week ago underneath a mound of dry leaves in Surrey. Police are still searching the Vancouver area for a sex offender they feel is the prime suspect in her slaying. Yesterday, hundreds of Pamela's friends and neighbors filed past her open coffin to pay their last respects. Search and rescue teams have been combing the trails and woods on Whistler Mountain since Sunday, and still no sign of missing hiker Anne-Marie Totten. Totten left her name with lift operators Saturday when she took the gondola up the mountain. She had planned a solo hike down, but she never returned. Search efforts have been concentrated in the Singing Pass area, a deep ravine situated between Whistler and Blackcomb Mountains. Police say the 24-year-old Ontario native is not dressed for nighttime temperatures, which have dropped to freezing over the past couple of days. Anne-Marie Totten wasn't this morning's only missing hiker. Two men were reported missing after failing to come back from a hike yesterday in the North Shore Mountains. But the men are safe this hour thanks to the quick response of search and rescue crews. They are also safe because they went into the wilderness prepared for the unexpected.
The first two little footbridges, right there.
And these search and rescue workers were heading for Whistler when the call came in. Two male hikers had not returned from a day trip in the North Shore Mountains. Their truck was found in the Cypress Bowl area early this morning.
2 males, mid-30s, and one of them's a very strong hiker, and his friend, I think they've both been hiking recently. They were only expecting just to be out for a short 4-hour hike yesterday.
There isn't any clues, no sign on the prairie?
Not so far.
Almost 30 search and rescue workers were dispatched from the Cypress ski area to search hiking routes the pair may have taken. A helicopter was brought in, and just after 10 o'clock this morning, the hikers were spotted near the Capilano watershed.
We're here, and the hike they would have taken on this towards the Lions would have gone up along the ridge this way towards the Lions. At some point, they must have gotten off in what we call the Lemke Creek Basin, which is this whole area in here.
They deliberately veered off the track when they heard a bear, but once off the trail, they became disoriented in fog and steep terrain.
Got really dark, and then we got fire going really quickly, and just survived the night.
The scratches from the night on your face?
No, that's the bushes, yeah. No, the bushes, like thorns and stuff. We had, like, on the water chutes, it was very steep, so we had to hang on to things, and no matter what, it was prickly wet.
Seeing back on it now, do you think you were prepared enough to spend the night?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think we're prepared. Yeah, matches, lots of water, food,
Clothes.
good moral. Yeah, but food, water,
Yeah, you
good
know,
moral.
don't leave home without it.
The dispute between a gay bookstore and Canada Customs comes under the legal microscope today in BC Supreme Court. Little Sisters Book and Art Emporium has joined forces with the BC Civil Liberties Association to sue Customs. Hundreds of books and magazines destined for the Vancouver bookstore have been intercepted over the years. Customs deems the material obscene. The bookstore argues the action violates the Charter of Rights.
Customers the choice to read what issues to read. Just being able to provide that choice. Yeah.
Bookstores say Canada Customs unfairly singles out gay and lesbian bookstores.
So if I walked into the Duthie's or any major bookstore, I would have no problem picking up Frisk.
You'd have no problem picking up Frisk. You'd have no problem picking up Unbroken Ties. You'd have no problem picking up Bushfire, which is lesbian erotic short stories. You'd have no problem picking up Leatherfolk.
They're seized, but they're eventually released. Well, if it's a magazine, it's certainly the cost of a day-to-day reality of not having that magazine available to sell people. And if it's a book, it's a similar kind of thing. When someone wants a book, they want it that day. And it's very hard to explain to them the reason why they can't have access to those books and why they're not available on the shelf. I think it's cost us thousands and thousands of dollars.
The BC Civil Liberties Association says government should have to prove materials are obscene, not bookstore owners.
This is the first day of our action, the BC Civil Liberties Association and Little Sisters Bookstore, in the matter of Customs' power to seize, detain, censor materials. As things stand in our country now, if you want to get a book into our country, if you want a magazine, if you want to read it, if you want to see a film, you have to prove to Canadian Customs that it isn't obscene. We hold that the government should take up the burden of proving that material is obscene as a condition of seizing it and forbidding Canadians from having access to it.
Do you feel that the Canada Customs is discriminating against your particular bookstore or any gay and lesbian bookstore?
I think they're specifically discriminating against gay and lesbian bookstores. When you can clearly walk into a mainstream bookstore and buy any of these books, and yet when the boxes are bound for Little Sisters, they're open and the books are detained.
After 9 years of fighting with Canada Customs, many gay and lesbian bookstores are happy they'll get their day in court. They're now fundraising to help raise the $120,000 to pay for the case.
We'll go down to the Waterfront Center now, where Mike Campbell is standing by. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Deborah. Now, you're probably wondering, what am I doing down here? Actually, you're not probably wondering. You don't care. For anyone else who does care, though, we're down here. This is great. You know, Vancouver a week ago had 14,000 dentists in town, and I had several of them work on me. And this week, it is the Doorman's Convention, the International Doorman's Convention. And we're going to talk a little bit later on to the person who is called the busiest doorman in the world. Now, that's something to wait for. We'll also talk
Business news.
Yeah, that's really big.
Yeah.
We'll also give you the bank rate. We're going to talk about, a little bit later, we're going to talk about this huge collapse of the ruble in Moscow over the last 48 hours. And I think it's got some incredible implications for the setup of what... That was really glib, didn't you think, Deb, for a second there? I was trying to think of how to say, in a straightforward manner, as thinking about the doorman. It has real implications, though, for the reforms that have undergone in the economy of Russia.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're not sure of that. Deb, let me hand over here to a much brighter guy than me.
David's there, too.
That's right. I asked David down because of the Doorman's Convention, and he agreed to come. Now he's all ears about that Moscow economic reform stuff, too.
I can't wait, Deborah. Michael says it's going to rain here, by the way. Clouds are kind of threatening right now, very gray. This is a cloud that should have been gone about 2 days ago, Deborah. I don't know what's happened. It's just hanging around the south coast here. To the north of us, skies are clear. And I'm going to have the details of the forecast a little bit later on, and we'll verify whether Michael, his observation is a good one or not.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to that, David. Thank you very much. Bernie, the Canadians.
Yes, the Canadian golf. I was just in Abbotsford interviewing Ray Stewart, along with Dave Barr and Rick Gibson. They won the Dunhill Cup. Just a major upset. They defeated the U.S. in the final, $1.5 million event. Ray Stewart has some comments about that victory. And the NHL situation, it's like a television series. It's your move. It's now into the corner of the owners again. The players have come back with a counter proposal. The owners are meeting right now. It does not look good, but we'll update that as well.
Okay, thank you, Bernie. And coming up after a breakthrough in cancer research, scientists have developed a revolutionary screening process that can detect several forms of cancer in their earliest stages. The talk is war, but the question remains, is it rhetoric or for real? U.S. President Bill Clinton says there is no evidence Iraqi troops are pulling back from the Iraq-Kuwaiti border, so American and Allied forces will continue preparing for a possible repeat of Operation Desert Storm. We have two reports now, the first from Kuwait and the second from Baghdad, where the government may be talking of war, but the people seem more concerned with the lack of food and medical supplies.
U.S. tanks were on the move today in Kuwait. The equipment which had been stored here has now been made ready by the newly arrived American troops. Precautions against a possible Iraqi attack are going ahead. Skepticism, along with the regular fare, was served for breakfast in Kuwait City this morning. Nothing that comes from Saddam Hussein is digested here without a healthy pinch of salt.
He's crazy.
So you don't believe him?
Yes, this is play with the Kuwait.
He's playing with Kuwait, you think?
Yes.
In the morning papers, there was talk of suspicion, and also on the streets.
He's crazy.
So you don't believe, when he says he'll pull his troops back, you don't believe?
No, not come my country.
The first of the U.S. contingent had barely arrived when the pullback promise was made, and the buildup will continue until it is clear if and how far the Iraqi troops will move to the north and how to get them to stay there. The ground troops are arriving light. Their heavy armor has been stored here for just such a crisis. Kuwaiti units are already in the desert, and U.S. officials say American troops have been digging in as well. But these small deployments of themselves would not stop any invasion. It's the threat of what's to come, on the ground, at sea, and in the air, that may have influenced Baghdad.
We have Marine forces coming in, Army forces coming in, some Air Force close air support missions are coming in. So it's not so much the number of people coming, but it's the combination and the capabilities.
And even if this crisis begins to wind down, the concern here is also for the next one. A new line in the sand will have to be drawn, the Kuwaitis say. A line in Iraq, well away from Kuwait, beyond which Saddam's forces will not be permitted.
We should not fall to the ploys of the Iraqis every time they make a statement here. We jump and they make a statement, then we jump again. We're tired of jumping.
For the time being, though, the Kuwaitis and their allies are still jumping, and they'll continue to jump and prepare until there's confirmation that the Iraqis are, in fact, rolling north and not south.
The Iraqi version of the apparent troop withdrawal is that it was done in response to requests from friends and in no way infringed on Iraq's right to do what it wished within its own borders. The whole affair has been treated as a mini rerun of the build-up to the last Gulf War, complete with organized demonstrations of youth chanting loyalty to Saddam Hussein and signing up for volunteer brigades to fight to the death. But the primary concern of ordinary Iraqis is trying to keep life grinding along. The UN embargo the exercise was allegedly designed to remove has cut deep here.
We Iraqi people, we don't like war, okay? Even Iraqi government doesn't like war. We want peace, okay?
Inflation is raging, and government rations for basic commodities were cut by half last month. Medicine is not embargoed, but it's in such short supply that people with prescriptions may have to go all over town to fill them, and often can't. Ali Ibrahim Bakr has been unable to find anything to cure his 17-month-old son's Ali's stomach disorder. We need medicine for babies, he says, not war. The official media here incessantly blames the whole affair on the U.S., which it claims is out to destroy Iraq. That line, the government apparently hopes, will both satisfy its own beleaguered people and win support at the UN Security Council for an easing of the embargo.
A member of the Nobel Prize Committee is threatening to resign. Reports suggest that PLO leader and former terrorist Yasser Arafat is up for a Nobel Peace Prize. Word is he and Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin are to be awarded the Peace Prize Friday. But because of the controversy, the prize committee may now change its selection. Meanwhile, an interest in poker and chess has helped 3 leading economists win a Nobel Prize for economics. A German, a Hungarian, and an American, all pioneers in using the principles of games as a foundation for understanding complex economic issues, will share the $933,000 U.S. award. Reinhard Selten, John Harsanyi, and John Nash studied games like chess and poker to develop groundbreaking economic theories. Researchers say a newly discovered genetic marker for cancer may be the key to a cancer test. The genetic red flag will be able to show the presence of cancer cells long before more obvious symptoms like tumors develop, allowing much earlier and more effective treatment.
Millions of Americans like Barbara Culleton, faced with the uncertainty of cancer looming in their future, want answers now.
I want to know one way or the other. I'm that kind of a person. I deal best with knowledge rather than uncertainty.
A new broad-based cancer screening test may give those answers far earlier than any test presently available.
This test has the capability of detecting even the smallest tumors. It can detect very small populations of cancer cells in bodily fluids.
For example, to detect bladder cancer today, doctors can only look for tumors visible to the eye. The new test, called repetitive DNA, finds tumors so small they are invisible by isolating pieces of DNA. DNA from cancers contain a telltale repetitive spelling error that is proof cancer is present.
This kind of testing for fundamental defects in the DNA of tumor cells is something that we've been looking for a long time.
The test could work for any cancer that spills into body fluids, including breast, lung, colon, cervical, and bladder cancers.
At a cost of about $50, the test should be available in about 1 year for patients at high risk of bladder or cervical cancer. The big payoff could be detection of cancer early enough to actually save lives.
The so-called French abortion pill remains illegal in the United States, but a New York gynecologist is now offering women a combination of drugs that act in the same way. Dr. Richard Houseknecht has developed a cocktail of legally available drugs that mirror the effect of RU-486. Houseknecht says women have the right to use an abortion pill, and the U.S. government is taking too long to approve RU-486. Don't go away. Michael Campbell has today's business news after a break. from the Waterfront Center. Here's Mike with the day's business news. And Mike, before we get to other things, I was fascinated to hear that you could win a Nobel Prize in economics for studying games like poker and chess. It sounds like fun research.
Well, it's interesting. You know, there's a fellow who, my favorite economist, a man named Martin Armstrong from Princeton Economics International, and his comment was that you can win a Nobel Prize without ever having been right. So it's not a bad business, the economic business. But what they're talking about, which I like to see, is a little common sense entering into well, you know, theoretical economics, and that is the kind of decision-making you make playing poker or chess. In other words, you've got to think quite a bit ahead. You have to look at what your future, what your opponent's future moves are. This is the part of the strategy that's been so adaptable to economics, about what kind of strategies that corporations make in anticipation of what their opponents are, are going to do in the corporate world.
Well, it is fascinating.
Well, that's a nice word for it.
Well, I mean, it must be more complicated than we're making it, because obviously
right.
You don't win a Nobel Prize for doing nothing. But
well, I'm kind of excited tonight, Deb. I'm gathering the children around the dinner table, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about.
The bank rate is out.
That's right. We have a little rise in the bank rate today. It's up 8 basis points, and that brings it up to 5.62%, up from 5.54% last week. So just a little bit of a gyration within that market, with the Canadian dollar above 74 cents. You know, this isn't any major trend that's happening. This is just part of those weekly movements, very, very minor at this point.
Okay. And they're having real trouble in Russia.
This is one of those nice segues, because this isn't minor. That yesterday we watched the ruble drop about 6% against the American currency and against the basket of international currencies in the Western world. Today there was a real panic, though. I mean, they're going to call it Black Monday for yesterday's trading, and Black Tuesday, and probably Black Wednesday, because we fell another 27% today with the ruble against foreign currency, especially the American dollar. Obviously, this puts a real strain. That kind of instability within the country puts a real strain on the economic reforms that are already in place in that part of the world. They're already having trouble. This makes it even more difficult. You know, there's an old expression, and we used to have this debate in Canada an awful lot, about devaluing the Canadian dollar. In history, there is never an example of devaluing your way to prosperity. So this will in turn, yes, it could help Russian exports, but we're not buying their goods anyways, and it certainly makes it difficult for importation for them. And the cost of living just went up for the Russians after a huge rise anyways due to inflation, so this is bad news.
Are there any effects that we would feel here in Canada apart from the usual, which is that it's a world market and anything that happens anywhere affects us sooner or later?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, it's just that it makes our technology more unaffordable for them. I mean, remember, we're doing an awful lot of technological export into the Soviet Union, and our forest products, that kind of thing, mineral extraction. You know, we're sending engineers over there. It just makes our goods and services dramatically more expensive.
And as you said, they've already got trouble over there. We hear regularly about lineups for food and such. You wonder how they can absorb something like this.
Well, exactly, and that's what remains to be seen. Obviously, it just puts a greater squeeze on the individual consumer over there, and really you have to see how it plays out over the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
Okay, one last thing, though, Deb.
Yeah.
I heard that okay. I know that okay in your voice now. It's, okay, let's move on to weather, because that's more interesting. But this is interesting, finally. I've got Gary Steger with me. He is what is called the busiest doorman in the world. He works down at the MGM Grand down in Las Vegas, which has been open not even a year yet. And Gary works, what shift do you work, by the way, Gary?
6 in the morning till 2 p.m.
So you get all the checkouts?
I get all the checkouts.
Now, the other thing I think is amazing, I happen to have been down to that hotel. How many rooms are in the hotel?
5,005.
Now, to put that in perspective, Deb, we're talking about a hotel that's probably got more rooms than the downtown core of Vancouver, and certainly more hotel rooms than places like Nelson or Vancouver, you know, or Victoria, that kind of thing. So this is like a little city on about, what, 30, 40 acres?
About 33 acres. And if you were to stay in each room, it would take you 13 years to stay at all the rooms.
Wow, if you just stayed one night
in each room.
Wow.
Pretty incredible.
I hadn't considered doing that. We have many of our audience today who would wish me that, though. Now tell me, there's a couple other things. That's the celebrity capital of the world. I know you opened up with a big bang last year, so who are some of the celebrities that have come through the door?
Barbara Streisand, Bette Midler, Phil Collins.
Wow, it's like People
Charlie
Magazine.
Sheen, Tony Curtis.
All good friends of mine, by the way. They're very dear friends of mine.
I'll send them to your regards next time.
Yeah, please,
Okay.
please do that. It'll mean something. Okay, what do you think of Vancouver?
Vancouver's great. Friendliest city I've ever been to.
Really?
Friendliest city. And the doorman from Vancouver has just been so hospitable. It's been really a great time.
Now, look, what do you have in common with the other people? You've got people here from all over North America.
We all have the same problem.
What's that? What's the biggest problem you have?
Keeping our drive clear.
Okay, there you go. We'll move. Okay, Gary, I get the point.
And on behalf of the MGM, I'd like to present you with the MGM Lion.
Boy, I'm glad that wasn't Mickey Mouse. I'm glad. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you.
Okay. Deb, that's it. I'm going in. I'm mixing with the doormen, if they'll allow it. And,
Open a few doors, will you, Mike?
I've tried to do that for all of us, Deb.
Thank you, Michael.
God bless you.
When we come back, David Jones will have our weather forecast. And Coastal Watch, Lynn Collier has a special report on policing our coastal waters. Well, Mike Campbell's been right about a lot of economic things. Now we get a chance to see whether he was right about the weather forecast. Is it raining, David? It looks like it's getting brighter out there.
Not yet. Yeah, it is sort of a little bit brighter to the west there, but there are some thick clouds over me right now, and the air is very cool down here, Deborah. I think summer for 1994 is over, just a memory now. We've had some very cool air move all through the province, and in fact, last night at Banff, there was 5 centimeters of snow. So we're getting into a fall for sure all across the province. We're looking at much lower freezing levels right now across all of the province. And right now on the satellite imagery, what we have is a frontal system that is approaching from the west. You'll see that right now. And that system has moved on to the Queen Charlotte Islands. No rain up there just yet, but it is moving in. And right now further south, we do have a fair amount of clear skies, but across the extreme south coast, there's this patchy low cloud that has been lingering for the past 48 hours. You just get a little bit of a sense of it here on the tight shot of BC, those light gray shades. Now that cloud has been hanging around for 2 days. There's even some reports of light drizzle and rain showers over towards Victoria. But further up the coast, you can see places like Comox are clear and dry and sunny, and that's the way it was yesterday as well. We do expect a few breaks around here today, but further north in the province, you can see that the sun is shining. The high clouds are moving in from the west. Right now it's cool at Whitehorse and 1 degree. And they're expecting thickening clouds through there as well for Dease Lake, and some showers this afternoon on the north coast. That front will move into the interior tomorrow. It will weaken substantially, and we are looking at possibility of showers behind it on the coast tomorrow and as well in the interior. Right now at Kelowna, it's 10 degrees. Across the south coast, fairly cool. Temperatures between 11 and 12. And the low cloud boundary is somewhere between Abbotsford and Hope, right at Chilliwack. I spoke to a farmer up there this morning, and he could see the cloud edge to the west, but it was clear and sunny to the east. Right now, Hope is sunny and 12 degrees. Currently, at the, or rather for the forecast tomorrow then, here's what it looks like. Up to the north, some showers or flurries, that is the northwest, that will taper off in the morning, and then clearing skies are forecast behind the front. Possibility of showers and thunder showers after the rain quits tomorrow in the morning on the north coast. And further south, well, mainly cloudy, a few sprinkles. Most of the shower activity should be around the northern half of Vancouver Island, but down here in Vancouver, a possibility of some light sprinkles at times. The front is really coming apart as it moves towards us here. Into the interior at Cranbrook, a mix of cloud and sun with 13 degrees forecast, and just isolated showers in the interior in the afternoon after some more widespread showers in the morning with temperatures between 7 at Prince George and 15 down in Kelowna. So right now at the airport, we've got 13 degrees, just light winds and 0.8 millimeters of precipitation in the past 24 hours. And the forecast for the rest of the day, mostly cloudy. There may be the odd break around this afternoon with highs to 14, overnight lows down to 8 under cloudy skies. And tomorrow, mainly cloudy, a few sprinkles around Vancouver with highs to 14. The outlook for Thursday showing a little bit of sun, but a 30% chance of showers. And Friday and Saturday looks fairly wet. We're into a westerly flow across the Pacific here. The forecast confidence just fair for the next, well, through days 3 and 5. And we're definitely into a wet pattern here, Deb. There's no question about it. And we're still looking for the rain. Don't see it anywhere. I'll talk to Michael now.
Okay. Thanks, David.
You're welcome.
BC has the longest stretch of unprotected coastline in North America, and the RCMP are in charge of patrolling it. They have 5 vessels to watch over 17,000 miles of land. Almost an impossible task. So the RCMP are now spending their time, visiting BC's various coastal communities and asking you to help them watch for drug smugglers.
BC's coastline is riddled with tiny fishing communities. Places where boats are the main mode of transportation. But they're not always transporting legal goods.
There's a growing epidemic on the west coast of British Columbia. Unlike its viral counterpart, this particular epidemic can be seen by the unaided human eye. The epidemic is drug smuggling.
50% of the marijuana police seize arrives by boat. That's why there's a big push on now for the RCMP's Coastal Watch program.
It helps us anticipate when a drug shipment's going to be arriving and maybe give us a heads up that we're going to have to do an investigation. And once the shipment's arrived on the West Coast, the impact it has on the community is just amazing.
This is the first time I've heard of it.
I think it's a good idea.
Well, it sounds like it will be if it can help stop the flow of all the drugs in the community.
Drug smugglers use a network of marine vessels, anchoring in deep water and offloading their cargo to smaller boats. They use sophisticated navigational equipment. Every year, millions of dollars of drugs are seized off BC coastal waters. But for every major drug bust the police make, 9 more go undetected. And that's why police are depending on the public's help and telling residents exactly what to watch for.
Vessel owners who keep irregular hours, are reluctant to leave their boat while the vessel is being serviced, appear to own a vessel beyond their means, or have little concern over the cost of repairs or maintenance, and pay large bills by cash.
Knowing what to look for has already paid off in Tofino.
Been quite successful, actually. We had one here where we were instrumental in giving some information. It was quite helpful. Boys came in and pumped all the fuel out of their boat. Couldn't understand why they would do that. Had the fuel tested. There wasn't anything wrong with it. And we discovered when they did catch them that they had some stuff hidden in the fuel tanks.
Tofino is not a very large community, but we have a very large coastal area that we have to cover, and the police can't do it alone, so we do need the community to give us a hand there. And often people that are out fishing or people that are at the fuel docks, they're our eyes and ears, and they can help us in that regard. So I'd say it's very important, yes.
The coastline is so long, and it's not very well populated, yet there's an abundance of deep water anchorages, and it just makes the west coast of BC a destination of choice for drug importation.
With only 5 boats to patrol the province's 17,000 miles of coastline, the RCMP say it would be impossible without the public's help. The Coastal Watch program also receives tips ranging from island-hopping thieves to cigarette smugglers and Americans fishing in Canadian waters.
Coming up, marriage, motherhood, and religion in the 90s, all wrapped into a new play which has just opened at the Arts Club Theatre.
Sensible. I always prided myself in being reckless.
A generation ago, most Canadian mothers didn't work outside the home, and most Canadians belonged to some form of organized religion. Today, those statistics are almost reversed. A dramatic change, and so it seems, a recipe for drama. Those issues form the basis of Miracle Mother, a semi-autobiographical play by Canadian writer Deborah Kimmett, on stage right now at the Arts Club Theatre.
Presumption is a terrible thing.
Meet Kathleen, played by actress Nora McClellan. Even for a 90s woman, she's dealing with a lot. Mother of an infant, businesswoman, ex-hippie, married to a house husband. On top of it all, the lapsed Catholic has just gone into labor 4 months early, and her still controlling mother has wheeled her right smack into a Catholic hospital. Pretty scary stuff, but this is a comedy.
Motherhood is like standing at the edge of a pool. A sea of women yell, "Come on in, the water's fine." I haven't been up for air since.
How much of this story is based on your own life?
Well, I mean, yes. Hold it. Okay, you've got me. No, I mean, parts of it are true. I mean, it didn't happen the way this play is written, but those elements are part of me, sure.
I've had beautiful babies. We're going to need to get a few of the Bibles.
Name?
Kathleen Brody. My name is Kathleen McFall. That's the trend out there, sister. Yes, I know. I ride the bus.
I've tried to write things that are about not being Catholic, and it's just part of me. It's just like, somebody said, well, you know, did you try to make this funny? And I said, well, it's just my take on life. It was really strange. The more dramatic I tried to make the piece, the more humorous it became. And, you know, I felt like when people were laughing, I thought, well, that's me trying to be serious, guys. I mean, you know. But I think when you're faced with something that is really life-threatening and serious, I just had a really warped view of the whole thing of, I think Kathleen's braver than I am. She says the things that I would have never said. I just would have thought them secretly, and then I write a play about it where she says them.
time.
I'll breathe for you. Look at me. Look at me. Now, breathe through.
Oh, God.
Focus. 1001 and 1002.
Oh, piss off.
I didn't do it to offend Catholics at all. I mean, and in fact, it gave me a lot more respect. It was, for me, just a journey in trying to make it all make sense to me.
But Miracle Mother isn't just comedy. It gets serious, addressing something the modern secular world tries to ignore: human spirituality.
You know, you could mention anything in this society, but mention the word God, and it's like, you know, it's like, not that word. You can call it anything but, oh, we call it, you know, it's like higher power. This is the big one. You know, with this woman, she's just trying to find a place where she can make it make sense. She doesn't want to go back to the old way. And in the place, she doesn't want to go into the kind of recovery movement jargon that her husband uses. So she's trying to find something in the middle for herself.
Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes-Benz?
Like the old cliche, it will make you laugh, it'll make you cry. Miracle Mother, on stage until October 22nd.
The only thing more painful than having a baby is watching your daughter have one.
Meantime, it's Move Over Meryl. Sylvester Stallone and Sharon Stone's The Specialist has swept Meryl Streep's The River Wild out of first place at the box office. The Specialist netted $14.3 million over its opening weekend, leaving its stars very happy.
I'm not as self-conscious as she is, but in her defense, it's also 90% men in the room. And to me, it's kind of like the locker room mentality. I'm used to it.
You owe her.
Yeah,
I hope you're not
I
used to
feel
it.
fairly stupid. Like, the hell am I doing?
No.
This again. No. And at my age, I should be getting stunt pay. I'm frightened.
Oh, listen to her.
So what were some of the surprises about Sly that you were
Well, let me show you right now, baby.
There he goes again. But he can maintain this sense of humor every day, all day, for the entirety of the
you,
shoot.
baby, I swear.
Which is, you know.
I wouldn't be this way if, like, I'm serious.
This was not an easy shoot. I mean,
No.
maybe compared to a lot of the movies you do are hard, but the explosions and the...
Did you see her face in the last shot when I'm taking...
You mean this?
Oh, you know, it's like the last shot is when her bocce blew up. This, and watch her face. Like,
Slide's
get me
like,
out of here.
oh, come on,
Yeah,
let's
you
go,
know,
no big
another day in the
deal.
office, baby, you know.
We'll be back in a moment with sports. And now here's Bernie with the sports.
Thank you, Deb. It was a memorable weekend in golf. Canada winning the prestigious Dunhill Cup at St. Andrews in Scotland. Most are calling it the biggest upset in the decade-long history of the $1.5 million event. Canada defeated the United States 2-1 in the finale. Ray Stewart, Dave Barr, and Rick Gibson representing Canada, and all from British Columbia. Canada had never made the semifinals before and upset many of golf's big names on the way. While Barr and Gibson remain out of the country on other golf commitments, Ray Stewart has returned to his home in Abbotsford.
Ray, you've had a few hours, I guess, to savor the big victory at St. Andrews in Scotland. How does it feel now?
Feels great. The same as it did then, Bernie. Probably even a little greater. I mean, every moment that goes by and another phone call comes in, it's neat. I really wish Dave and Rick could be here to appreciate some of this.
What did it mean representing Canada #1? You go into an event like this, you're facing the premier golfers in the world. You're thinking, hey, we're 40-1 underdogs. It'll just be nice to compete. I guess that's really the feeling going into it.
Absolutely, and we had great team spirit. And we just said we're going to have fun regardless of how we played. We're at St. Andrews. They were basically taking care of all of our expenses. They were looking after us in the hotel. Dave and Rick and I were having a great time. And the golf wasn't secondary, of course, but we were going to enjoy that regardless of how we played, which we did.
Ray, you go back early in the tournament. Dave Barr had a big win over Nick Price, and that sort of set the standard, the pattern for the rest of the action. The feeling then was,
hey, Canada's done extremely well. They've defeated Zimbabwe, Barr's victory over Nick Price, but it didn't stop there.
No, it didn't stop there, but that was definitely a huge inspirational point of the whole week was Dave being the captain and taking Nick Price down the last hole and roundly beating him in the 18th green was great. And then for him to do it again the next day with Bernhard Langer was just, I mean, it really got us up and flying. It was great. Dave did a real good job.
Ray, I've got to ask you, you're up against Fred Couples, and we mentioned Nick Price and Bernhard Langer. Everyone's there, the premier golfers in the world. Were you intimidated at all?
Oh, not really, Bernie. I mean, Dave's been out on tour for 17 years. I mean, I played down the U.S. Tour for 6 years. I've played with virtually all those players, and Rick Gibson's been playing around the world for, you know, probably 10 years. So we've all kicked around. We're not bums. We play like bums sometimes, but so we've all been around, and there wasn't much intimidation. But we had less pressure on us, I think, too, being the underdogs, and we could just kind of let it go a little more. So
let's relive the big moment, your match against Fred Couples. One of the biggest wins of your career, I'm sure.
Yeah, one of the biggest days probably of my career, I suppose. A lot of pressure. I mean, I was playing for our whole country, I think, because this was a big day for Canadian golf, so it was pretty special that way. And I certainly wasn't playing for me. I just didn't want to let Dave and Rick down, you know. So.
What about the concept of team play? I mean, there has to be that extra pressure because you're following exactly what's happening with Rick or with Dave. If you're on your own, it's you against the world, but this way, the team concept, what does that mean?
Much harder. I found it much harder because, again, when you're playing for yourself, you're kind of used to letting yourself down a little bit, but when you're playing with teammates, I mean, I just didn't want to let them down. I just kept my nose to the grindstone and just working away and stayed real focused.
Ray, what do you think this win means in terms of Canadian golf? It's obviously getting a lot of play across Canada. The young golfers building the foundation, it's got to help.
No, I think hopefully it's going to be a huge step for Canadian golf, and you know, one of the greatest gifts you can give anybody or anything is to be inspirational. So hopefully, Team Canada this year at the Dunhill Cup is going to be an inspiration to the RCGA, to all the young players in Canada, to the young professionals, and get us up and going. We got the talent.
The money is great. It's a $1.5 million event, checks for $200,000. But now it's facing reality. Back on the golf grind again, trying to get a spot.
I'm going to put reality off for a couple days, Bernie. I'm just going to let it slide. I got lots of time to think about tour school and worry about tour school. I'm just going to enjoy this one and let one day unfold on top of the other one.
It's an exciting time. Congratulations again, Ray.
Thanks, Bernie. Appreciate it.
And a great win it was. Congratulations to Ray Stewart and the team, all 3 members from BC. NHL owners met in New York this morning to discuss the players' latest contract proposal. The Players' Union had offered a tax on both gate receipts and player payrolls. The payroll tax would be applied at graduated rates to the top 16 clubs in terms of revenue. Now, the league's last proposal was to tax teams whose payrolls exceed the league average. The owners have just started a press conference as we speak in New York. No official word yet, but the feeling is that they will reject this latest offer. The pro football career of Mervyn Fernandez in the 80s was an attempt to ever wear a BC Lions uniform. Mervyn was hampered all season with groin and back injuries and wasn't able to play at his best. Fernandez gave it a good shot, but he has decided to retire. The Lions have a rematch in Saskatchewan this weekend following their exciting win Saturday at BC Place. Now for our weekly high school report, an update on the Catholic high school rivalry established over the weekend.
High school football on a perfect autumn afternoon, and it's an underdog team in white trying to upset a veteran Vancouver College team in purple. The Fighting Irish with 65 years of tradition. The classic David and Goliath football story. With just seconds left on the clock, the Holy Cross Crusaders had a good chance to take a lead at the half.
That's what Let's go, boys. 1 yard. Hey, this is it. Come on, boys. Let's do it.
A tense situation for both sides, and hearts were pounding. Would the upstart kids from Surrey go out on top? No. Time ran out, and Vancouver College held on to a slim 9-7 lead.
No, we were lucky to be in it. I mean, they outplayed us completely. We were terrible. I don't think I've seen us that bad this year, and I let them know in no uncertain terms at halftime. It was not something we're very proud of. It.
Coach Del Monte's halftime speech must have been something, because quarterback Andrew Irving came back out and threw a perfect 83-yard strike to Chris Lang. The purple and gold tradition was beginning to pay off. Now the scoreboard clock was decidedly in college favor, and this isn't your average scoreboard. It has a tradition of its own.
The score clock came from Empire Stadium. It was donated to us about 10 years ago, and we just got it back up and running the other day, and we're very pleased that this is the first game it's in operation.
We look at the dials, it looks like early BCTV.
Well, it's certainly 40-year-old technology, and it takes a genius like Charlie over here to work the clock properly. The scoreboard is an asset to the fans and also the referees on the field, and I think it adds a new dimension to the game, and I'm sure everybody's having a good time with it today.
Scores some more tradition for the clock and the Fighting Irish, who went on to a 30-7 win over Holy Cross, a school that does not regret moving up to AA from single A.
We had our time there. We established, we were on the other end of a lot of lopsided scores. People wanted to see us go. We felt it was time to move. We have a very talented group in grade 11. I think if the system's going to work, then when it's time, you move and you go work where it's. If you're going to win it at the top 11.
No NHL, but plenty of junior hockey. The Cowichan Valley Capitals defeated Victoria last night by a score of 7-4. And in Kamloops, the Blazers' home ice winning streak was halted at an amazing 33 games. They were defeated last night by Spokane. Spokane got some great goaltending in that game. They defeated the Kamloops Blazers by a score of 5-2. And there's hockey tonight on 280 Jock. Jeff Courtnall and friends, guests with John McKeechee, live from double overtime in downtown Vancouver. That's tonight following News Hour final. Deb?
Thank you very much, Bernie. That is our broadcast for the day. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow at noon.